had a lot of wildfires this year, and we see this trend, where I think where spring tends to, the number of calls you run versus the number of personnel that you have, and because what it comes down to, how many people do you have to respond? And as we see these trends continue, I'll use the word diluting the number of responders that we have available, just some type of information around how things are trending from this period last year, a year before this, is really to help us start looking forward as what we think we're gonna be faced with next year. I mean, start planning for next year at this time. So, I mean, it's a kind of a long-winded question, and it's kind of open-ended, but just want you to kind of start, each of you chiefs really start looking at the type of calls you're making, when you're making them, and the number of personnel that we have.
Yeah.
Are you asking if we're wearing them out, pretty much?
Well,
Because I know that is probably the
well,
case.
we got a couple of stations that have a tremendous amount of one-person calls. So is it a lack of resources that's driving it, or is it some other behavior that we have that we're starting to be laxed in responding to calls? We're not sending two people because we go out there all the time.
Gotcha.
So, and I know one of them potentially could be a situation where we probably should be sending two people, but I think we may be getting a little bit complacent in our responses, the people that are going.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing pretty good. Well, I got quite a few of my guys. Running my numbers, I got 28. Out of the 28, I probably got a good, I'd say 16, 18 response pretty much all the time with me. Now, depending on time of night it is, usually from about midnight to about 5, 6 in the morning, I've only got about 2 of us that do a lot of the running. And I'm trying to get some of the other ones more. Like we did try it in for a little while, a couple of weeks, of having 2 different people per night, but that kind of slid off. So I have to reevaluate that and see if I can get more people involved in the middle of the night. But a lot of them is because they get up and they got to go to work. And usually it's me and this other guy, we're not going to work, so that's why we usually cover for that period of time.
I'm awake about that time in the morning if I could help you, but I don't know if I'd be much help.
Yeah.
Anyway, just to kind of prod us a little bit about kind of where we see our districts going in the future. Thank you.
Dixie, Chief York.
Good evening.
Evening.
Yeah, we had 100 incidences, 1 incomplete report that's been caught up. Everything's going good in Dixie. Ran a lot of calls. Unfortunately, we're starting to get a lot of grass fires, like you mentioned. Humidity's been real low. The last couple of weekends, people are starting to burn. You can see it on Saturday. I listen to the scanner quite a bit, and as soon as you turn it on, everybody in the district's running them. Because on Saturday, everybody wants to get out and clean the yard up. It's pretty. The temperature's warming up, humidity's low, and they want to burn. And it starts getting out of control brush fires. And still working on the grant as far as brush truck. Supposed to meet with Chief Smith and Dale over here. We're probably going to meet this coming Sunday, try to put together something. It's supposed to be put on the agenda for tonight, but we didn't have our ducks in a row. So hopefully this next month we'll get it on the agenda. We'll run it by y'all.
Okay.
Any questions?
So you've run 100 calls in the period, which is the highest of all the districts, and you ran it with 11 people, and you only have one-person response. So how do you do it?
He's got 2, Brent. I was going. I want to
Okay,
know
yeah.
why we have 1-person response when he has staff people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's inaccurate on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of calls. A lot of them are medical calls. A lot of them are medical. We got our frequent flyers, out there constantly. There's one particular one that
So the 11 personnel that you have, does that include your paid staff, or is that?
Yeah.
No, that's just 11 volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 11 volunteers, so you.
full-time guys,
Yeah.
like I said, they,
So, I mean, is that part of the equation, is you can run so many calls because you got 3 guys out there
yeah,
during the day?
yeah,
So, I mean, so just say they're the same. We got 14 people out there running 100 calls, and we got others that are much lower call, much higher,
volunteers.
one-person calls. Yeah,
Yeah.
volunteers calls. I mean,
But like Chapel Hill though, y'all don't have 24-hour staff, right? Y'all have
Right.
8 to 5 staff.
Right,
So you're seeing a lot of that depending on volunteers overnight, whereas Flint,
White
yeah,
House,
and all these that have that round-the-clock stuff, a little, they can have 11 personnel and still be that good because they do have the backup of full-time staff, whereas Chapel Hill is having to be the other half of that
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, the two-person,
I got two guys on my
that you have.
volunteer staff, it's Trey Glover and, Darren Roselle, and they run just about every call. Just about every call.
And that's probably what your two one-person responses are, is probably the paid crew were on another call, and those are 2 simultaneous calls. So you probably have one volunteer ran, while the 3 paid staff run another.
Sometimes it'll work out that way, yeah. Mike Turbyville was in the other day and ran a call by himself.
His district tends to happen to have 2 calls going at the same time.
I mean, all this conversation is around those special circumstances, which, again, the data that we're looking at isn't giving us a clear picture of how we're doing our districts. So there's information, or there's statistics here, but there's not really good information around it.
I guess it'd say it's skewed.
Yeah, so I mean, what we'd really like to understand is how you're doing. I'm not necessarily wanting you to read it to me. I've read it already, Dan. I've got my, and I've run my comparisons to it, but I don't have all that background information to really tell the health of your district. That's what we're asking for. How healthy is your district? What's working well in your district? What's not working well? How can we improve? Not just today, but next year and so forth. So, guys, that's what I really would like to. I did a lot of this whenever I first came on the board, and we didn't gain a lot of. We got a little bit of traction, but not a lot. Well, I'm back preaching again. I'd like to understand how your district's doing, not just what the numbers say.
Right.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Clint Gresham? I guess Captain Rath has got the.
Still
Lieutenant, excuse me, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not captain, I'm still lieutenant.
I'm sorry.
So things are going well in Flint. Since you've got the report, do you want me to go into anything, or do you want me to just say that everything's good and keep it
Why
short?
is it good? What's bad? I mean, it's not all good,
No,
right?
everything's wonderful.
If it is, then great, but
Yeah.
I just have a hard time believing that everything's going great. Okay.
We don't have anything to complain about, really. I mean, so the two, well, I'm not gonna go into it, because you've already read it, so. We do have, one good thing that we've done in the last month is we did get the mobile command platform down in Flint Station 2, which is making it a whole lot easier for us to deploy that quickly. Because all the people that run that are down on the south side of the county. So Larry can get to it fast, I can get to it fast, Brent can get to it fast. It's, all the people that run it are down there. So it's just a much faster response for that. And it's in an air-conditioned building, so it's not running the air conditioner all the time. It's just a better situation all around. But other than that, I mean, the district's running fine.
But you had a driver hit a stationary object, so things aren't always that good, right?
Well, that's true, but I can't speak to that. That's Chief Smith, unfortunately. I mean, not to throw you under the bus, but it wasn't my guy, so.
Is there something we can do to make
Yes,
that not
if you can
happen
move the fuel pumps to the other side of the driveway, because the only apparatus that we have that fuels on that side is the tanker, and it doesn't move that much. Everything else fills on the opposite side. So I know that they originally put it on that side because there was the idea of building admin over there, and it couldn't be that close to a structure. I don't know what's gonna happen with admin, but if we could move it to that side, it would save a lot of problems for us.
That's what we needed to know.
Yeah.
Thank,
But as long
we were
as-
talking about that like 2 years ago, but Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
well,
I interject something here? We did do an accident review last week in regard, for the last 3 accidents that have happened, and one of those being the one we're talking about today. And out of that discussion with the accident review board, we did decide that there were 3 recommendations to help mitigate that from happening again. One is to either draw a line, paint a line as to how close they can get to the pump itself. The other one is to put a curb up on it so that they would actually hit a curb, so they would feel it. And then the other is to move the pump. The most popular was to move the pump. And so, because they're saying it's on the wrong side of the truck as well. So if it was on the driver's side, they're saying it would be beneficial as well.
How do y'all feel now? Do you come in backwards? to the
we have a
drain?
really long hose on the diesel one, and it goes underneath, we pull it underneath the truck and up and fuel on the other side. So we don't have to turn around, so we're not going in backwards, but we do have to pull that hose underneath the apparatus every single time. So it's like a double length hose that we've got over there. For the, yeah. Right, because they have to pull it underneath the truck. And I mean, there is a limited length to it. I mean, trying to pull it underneath the truck, even if you pull far away from it, it's still kind of stretching it out a little bit, especially on like the ladder, which is the bottom of the truck is down here. You still got to pull it up to the top to about this level where the fuel fill is. For command 1, I turn around and I can do the 180 there in that driveway, so I just turn around and fill it on the correct side. But like I said, the only apparatus that we have on the diesel tank that fills on that side is the tanker. So it is a problem. It's been a known problem. Fortunately, we've gone this far without having an incident, but it happened. So, okay. Any other questions? I tried to keep it short.
So since we're not talking about numbers, the health of our department, staff-wise, they're doing a tremendous job. It's going along great with those guys. Volunteer side, we're still struggling. Any questions for me?
Anything we can do to help you? Do you see there's being, man, I wish I had this. This would help me a ton.
The biggest thing that I'm hearing feedback from is no stipend. Those guys that did volunteer at one time, they're still looking for stipend from the previous years. Where's my stipend? Where's my stipend? Getting the volunteers out in that area, that's going to be a big selling point for those people. So I'm struggling to get volunteers. The training is great, but without some type of money going in their pockets for fuel, their free time, it's not beneficial.
Just by the very definition of volunteer, we all know what that means.
Right.
It doesn't include a paycheck, but I also understand that there are people that depend on that
Right.
to get to and from and help, and so we're still working on that. I know.
And I appreciate it.
That answer, but we really are.
I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Yeah, what is the status of that?
Good question.
2 weeks.
We're still working on it. And 2 weeks.
I mean, I heard it was audit, and I heard it was this and that. I mean, are y'all blowing smoke or are you serious?
Thank you, Matt. We'll talk about it later. Go ahead, Tom.
All right.
I will say, like with Jackson, we're struggling as well. And, we, with the stipend, our volunteers, they have Colonial Life Insurance that we pay for. They have cancer policy that we pay for. We have additional life insurance that we pay for, and we're still not getting the volunteers. I think it's not just in Smith County, it's nationwide. It's used to, it was a could I do for my community now? It's what's the community gonna do for me? And it's just a different mindset that we have. So I don't think that, Jackson or Noonday or, you know, it's nationwide. I will say I was a part of the accident review board. I viewed the video and didn't really think about it until Chief Clanton had mentioned it, but had there been somebody sitting over there by that gas pump, we would have had possibly a fatality or a serious injury. So my recommendation for what it's worth is that we move those gas pumps. With that, we ran 68 calls. The one person response and I've seen it, I've been sitting at the station. When we get a grass fire, they'll take the engine and they'll take the brush truck, and whoever jumps on the engine or brush truck, they're checking en route to pull the map up on their phone. So it's saying POV, so it shows one person response when in fact we've got 3-4 people. We did get our boat back on the water today. We had like I said, a private citizen that donated money to get the engine worked on. And our board president was kind of not telling me that he's a boat guru, but anyways, he fixed our boat. He had over 42 man hours in it, saved us tons of money. He rewired everything, got the gauges working, so everything on it works. I'm hoping to get maybe 2 more years out of it at the most. We did get finally got our new extractor in that we got the grant for, so now instead of 1 set of gear at a time, we can wash 4, possibly 5 sets of gear at the same time. The only issue that Noonday has is I know Larry and Brent are super busy, but it has almost gotten to be impossible to get anybody on the phone. I think whenever they go out on deployments, it needs to be communicated to who's ever answering the phone instead of just transferring us back there to IT. You know, sometimes, and Larry and I have talked, you know, what I think might be an emergency is not necessarily an emergency to them, and I get that. But we have to have somebody there to answer the phone. Sometimes we can't do a support ticket, and sometimes it might just be as simple as calling on the phone saying, hey, I'm sitting here at my computer, the printer doesn't work, do I need to click here, and we can fix it. But we don't have anybody that answers the phone. And to send somebody that is on light duty to a deployment is asinine. That's ridiculous. That's all I got.
I got a question, Mel.
Yes, sir.
Why are we running an engine on brush fire?
Water supply.
I thought tankers were supposed to take care of the water supply.
True. Most of the time their gear is already on the engine. So, I mean, if that's a direction that we want to go, we can start, you know, brush truck and a tanker. But, you know, we have structures involved. I mean, we've got 1,000 gallons on there. You know, most of the time if we need more than 1,000 gallons, we've got more brush trucks or, you know, get a initial tender.
I was just curious why you run
What does our SOP say on wildland fires? Roughly, you know it all.
It says brush truck, engine or tanker, depending on the situation. So I think a lot of times that means, is it close to structures, not close to structures, to give them the ability to have all the equipment on scene that they need.
Now, I will say if it's in our district, we will take a brush truck and an engine. If we go to another district, most of the time it is, or even another county, it would be a brush truck and a tender.
I'm just curious. Just for information as to why.
A lot of times you're taking that engine for structure protection too, because you don't know, especially in the populated area, what you're getting into until you get there. And sometimes that comes in more handy, and they can always call the next available department for a tender.
Are our tenders not equipped to pump, just like a pumper?
Some of them are slow. Some of them are. Some of them aren't equipped to fight a structure fire at all.
I know our tenders, we don't have air packs on them. Now, if we're gonna spend the money, we can put air packs on all the tenders, but if we have a structure that's involved, then all we can do is stay outside and hope for the best.
I think you're in compliance with your SOPs, and the engine will buy you plenty of time for them to request another department.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's, to me, it's officer discretion. I mean, I'm not gonna Monday morning quarterback them. You know, if they've got a gut feeling that they need the tender versus an engine, then that's their call.
No, I'm just asking the question so we'll understand why.
Right,
You know?
right.
I mean, I'm kinda like you, it should be the chief's discretion, you know? But, as long as you're following the SOPs or SOGs or whatever, then that's fine.
There's gotta be
I just
some,
asked the question.
gotta be some gray in there.
I
It's
ju- I
not
just
just
a- I
black
just
and
asked
white.
the question because
Right.
there's some gray in there,
Right.
so, okay.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Mel. Red Springs, I know he's not here because he's at a college classes tonight or something. Troop, Chief Monger. But I would like, if a chief is not gonna be here, that he'd have a representative like Chief Stone. When he's out of town, he has somebody here, so I would think it would be nice if another member of the department or the assistant chief or one of the officers would show up. Okay, go ahead, Chief.
Well, you've read the report, so I don't have to go into that part of it. This month, we've been pretty busy. We've had between 150 and 200 acre grass fire with one structure saved. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was pretty mushy out there all the way around. I think some of our Texas Forest Service were out there also. They got stuck. The last one out got stuck because he was in a pickup and he followed the dozers out. We had 3 dozers from the TFS, and then we had 2 of our dozers out there. And by the way, if nobody knows, everybody's aware of our dozer's down right now. We went down to Mount Enterprise, Mount Enterprise, and helped out down there. I had 3 volunteers from my department, and Bullard had 2 that came from their department. And we're in the process of adding on to our Concord station. Our department is doing that on its own. We're just getting everything started on it right now, but we're in the process of adding on to it at our expense. And because we're getting a lot of houses out in that area that are really starting to build up, and there's some mighty expensive homes getting built out in that area. So I want to move one of my engines out there, which won't take away from the city at all. We'll still have 2 engines inside the city, but it'll put one out there a little closer for my people that are out there in that area to respond from.
You got 3 engines?
Yes, sir.
I've
I've got one on both sides of the track, plus my other engine is actually an engine and a tanker combined.
You more or less just answered my question, but I went and got feed the other day from Steele's, and I got stuck behind a train that wasn't moving.
Now,
Do you have volunteers on both
I
sides?
have volunteers on both sides of the tracks, and that's the reason that we put the station on both sides of the tracks, so that we could cover that area just in case.
Also a good point. I bet I sat there for 30 minutes, and I ended up backing up, going all the way back to Mixon and coming back up through Bullard on the south end. I mean, is that a regular occurrence?
Yes.
That they sit there?
Sometimes.
Okay, yeah, because he was stationary.
Sometimes they'll sit there for long
There was
periods of time.
Biggest traffic jam and troop I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life.
I've seen it all the way out to the Dairy Queen before.
And just so you'll know, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, no, I
No.
knew there wasn't. I just wanna make sure we had.
We could go to ARP and go around if we had to, but
Right.
that'd be the closest way. Sometimes, yeah.
That,
Our own-
that was the reason many years ago we built that second station, because of that very reason. So we could put a response over on that side of the track. Of course,
Well, and you're
Yeah.
fortunate too, you've got ARP on one side, White House on the other, and they're both relatively close, and,
right.
yeah, one of
Yeah.
them staffed.
And also, I would like to thank Dale. He sent a crew out there after our fire to sit with the house out there at the structure, at the wildland fire we had out there, so they could stay there with the command post. He had two volunteers from his department that came out there and spent the night out there. I went out the next morning, Saturday morning, and told them they could go on because one of them had to go to work. But we're in the process also of getting our GSAR set up. We've had a meeting and kind of got everybody kind of lined out on that, and we're in the process of having some more meetings, so we may come back to you at a later date and ask for some help with that if it's at all possible. And I would like to see something like that being put into our budget, either that way or included in something else.
Yeah, I know, you had 2 responses that the GSAR was actually called out on.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we've had 2 responses in the GSAR. Hopefully at a later date, we can get some of the paid personnel involved with it, but right now it's all volunteer.
You had a couple of, one-person calls to gas leaks. What type of leak were you dealing with for gas
I think
leak?
it's just a natural gas smell that, most of the time it's just a natural gas. We have a station just outside of town on both 110 and 13. And there's a lot of times we get called out there after they put mercaptan in. And it'll get the smell, and if it blows the right direction, it'll come back. We have to go out there and check it. We do. But usually it just takes one person out there, and if he gets in a bind, he can always call the rest of us.
So, natural gas leak can be devastating, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I'll challenge you, is this is one of the areas that, are we becoming sensitized to it? Because it is a mercaptan injection site, that we respond to it as we're going out there just because it's mercaptan. There's not gonna be anything.
Well, and that, and sometimes that's all I have available at the time. It depends on the time of the day, whenever it is. If it's at night, sometimes I don't have, there's a period in there in the morning early and in the evening, after our guys get there and before they get there, that one person is all there is. I've run several one-person calls myself just because I was the only one that wasn't going to work.
So I guess I'll ask you, if it were a known structure fire,
Oh, we'd have some people could turn loose from their jobs at that point. If it's something serious like,
I say,
or turns into something
yeah.
serious.
But if you, so, and I'll go back, we all know about the school that blew up.
Right.
So, I mean, pulling up on a site where there's potentially a gas leak, like I say, can be devastating. And I'm just challenging, are we becoming desensitized to the call that we're going to? What happens on the day that you roll up that it really is a gas leak, right? You got one person that is probably in a bad situation.
I'll tell you what's worse than gas
Because
leaks.
we treat it like just a common event. It's repetitive. It just happens over and over again. And in my background, those are the cases where we have fatalities. Because one time we respond. Yeah. And I'm saying, look, we just got to be careful that we don't allow ourselves to start treating them as routine when they could be much more severe.
It depends on the manpower that's available at the time. I mean, we're all volunteer except during the daytime. During the daytime, they can send 2 or 3 or whatever. At night, sometimes I don't have that personnel available.
But that's my point of asking the question. If it were a structure fire, you would have people, right? There was no way you'd pull out there one person on a structure fire.
No, no.
Then why isn't this as critical? Why don't you respond to it the same way? I don't respond unless I've got at least 2 people.
If it was a structure fire, it'd be a box alarm, so you'd have 3 departments responding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the gas leak can turn into.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and
I mean, I'm not
I'm not
trying to cast stones at anybody.
downgrading it at all. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not downgrading it any at all. But if you don't have the personnel, and we've got about seven or 8 on our department that responds.
So if it
We're
were,
working on trying to get some more in there, but
yeah, so if you knew it was a known gas leak.
we would have more
would one-
people.
You'd have more than one person, right?
Right.
So how do you determine whether it's a known gas leak or not?
Well, when that one person gets on scene, he can call.
And it's too late then, right? If it really is known, if it is a gas leak.
What are you gonna do to a gas leak anyway? You're gonna back off and call the department and let them come out there and take care of it.
Yeah.
All you're gonna do is stand there for standby.
Yeah.
By that time, we can have other personnel on scene.
But, I mean, that's not what you're doing right now, right?
We're going out there and checking it, and if we do have a serious leak, then we call the gas company or the oil company. We have oil leases all over the county too, and a lot of times, if there's personnel available, we'll send personnel.
Most of the time, and I gotta get where you're going, most of the time gas leak though, in my experience, has been in the area of Main and First Street, and it is purely, you make the block and you go home, but I understand what you're getting at, and our biggest, what I said earlier, more so than gas leaks is fire alarms. I bet we have 100 to 1 fire alarms to gas leaks, and those are a lot of our one-person responses, because I piddled in this business for a little while, and I've only ever run one fire alarm that was an actual working structure fire. And so, but that's one area we get very complacent. We don't put our gear on, we don't put our packs on. We drive out there, look at it, no, she's good, go home.
I tell you, that better on that one, on any of them staff engines.
This has been a little while ago. I haven't volunteered since we've stepped up our game, but yeah, that's.
Well,
Because you and I both know that there's a particular high-risk place that gets a lot of fire alarms. Nightmare scenarios when they roll up and there's one guy by himself and all of a sudden it's on fire.
And equally the schools, and I know which one you're at. But anyway, thank you, sir.
And we have responded, several people, to gas leaks, like out there at 2750, we've had a lot of. And the fact is, we've probably visited that place so much that we could probably tell you where the bumps in the road are out there, because we have been there that many times over and over and over and over again. And most of it is just a pressure change in the valves and stuff that makes those tanks pop off. And after they pop off, the pop-offs, that's what they're designed for.
Right, big pop off, restill, yeah.
I mean, you know that as well as I do.
Yeah. So maybe, and again, I'm not trying to cast stones at you, maybe the response for the mercaptain is not actually go out there and check for the gas leak, but more to ensure that nobody else goes into the area, and let the oil company, let the pipeline company deal with it.
Yeah, we do. We do. We don't turn any valves or anything else. I mean, that's totally done the thing.
How close do you get to it? Do you get close enough that you smell it, and then you start?
Well, these are right on the highway.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, 13, the thing is probably as far from here to that far wall out there from the road. So you drive past it, you're gonna smell it. And that's where we get a lot of it too, is people driving down the road, stinks.
Yeah.
Well, and a low pressure leak, a non-dangerous leak can put off enough odorant to make it the average person.
Right.
And we deal with it on a daily basis in the propane industry. It'll be a pinhole, low pressure leak that it'll smell up the whole house. There's more smell than danger.
Yeah.
But a high pressure leak, you're gonna see a white vapor cloud, there's gonna be a lot more sense of urgency.
I was
And I
gonna
have-
say, if we've got a high pressure leak, it's gonna sound like a jet engine out there. And the last one that I know that I went on was when the transmission line between Eastman blew out there at Chapel Hill. And it took it about 12 hours to burn out. It actually exploded, so.
But guys,
Well,
I know of people that die daily
Oh, yeah.
because they don't recognize the risk that they have.
I understand
And
what you're saying.
And we're not recognizing the risk. We're treating the risk if this is non-event. It's just a mercaptan.
I get it, yeah.
Well,
I agree with you.
So I hope we don't ever have to sit up here and have a discussion about it was something that we didn't think it was one day. Because it's not fun. I've been on that side of it. That is not fun at all.
I've seen it too.
So
I saw a total house
let's-
explode.
Let's treat it like it's important then.
Very good. Anything else?
Thank you.
White House?
White House, we were the highest one with one person responses. We had 14. Okay, I won't be ashamed. It's a shame to say that. Probably 13 of them was me. Okay, in essence of that, I could get the captain up here. In reality, they wasn't one person responses. They were medical calls. They were at night. And the captain, the captains which are staying at our station was responding with us. We just wasn't we hadn't been putting them on the report. Huh? Just hadn't been doing it. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Huh? Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we're gonna start putting them down there with us. Yeah. Right. Exactly. You're exactly right. Yeah, I was sitting there thinking about that just a minute ago when I thought that, and I said, hey, wait a minute, 90% of the time when I run one of them calls during the night, I got the captain with me because I'm meeting him there. And matter of fact, to save time because we're so far out, and probably the closest people we've got to the station, I've got Larry, and one other, and then I'm the next to the closest, and it's a 4 to 5 minute trip to the station depending on my traffic. So any of the medical calls, because 98% of our medical calls, I can leave straight from the house in my pickup. When I get on scene, I got EMS already on the scene, so I don't need a medical bag or anything like that. So that's the route I go. It's kind of getting, I think it's kind of getting our other people complacent with it because we're not, and we've picked up, we've got a lot of new members that's just joined in the last, 2 months, Larry? But in essence of that, a lot of the medical calls by going direct like we're doing and not going to the station, they're not, because we tell them when they first start out and they're on probation to go to the station. We don't want them going direct. And that's probably hurting us a little bit. We have been talking and looking at on this doing some on calls, like I'm gonna take Tuesday and Saturday night, kind of something like that, but we're trying to put it off and hold off on it as long as we can. And, all right, only other thing I've got to say to you along with it, I'll jump in there with Terrence. Terrence started it off, the stipend. thing, and the cost of fuel. You know, I'm not worried about it, I'm chief, y'all pay me a month. But all my other people, you know, and this cost of fuel, you know, I know it's headaches in there with it, but we need to see if we can do something to help them.
We got the money budgeted to pay them, as soon as we hear from DOL,
Right,
they say it's okay, we will turn it loose,
exactly.
but we can't do it.
No, we can't, yeah, it can't be touched till that comes up. I agree.
It's not us putting it off,
Right,
it's having to walk.
right.
We'll have to use all of it and then some for fines when we mess up,
Mm-hmm,
and we're not gonna do that.
right. Oh, I totally agree with it. Okay, anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Hello. Department's overall doing great. We have, like, say, 353 man-hours this last month. A lot of it's, we're on having get-togethers, hamburger, and training on Saturdays. You know, all our new members and stuff, and we're there when calls bump out. And usually lately it's been several calls on weekends, you know, grass fires and a lot of medical calls.
How many new members have you put on, David? How many new members have you?
We have 3 new members, 2 juniors, and we're looking at some more juniors at the high school that are interested.
Okay.
No, we had one person response. That was on a Sunday morning while everybody's in church. I run that, and the EMS said they had a 22-minute ETA. That's why they called us, for a sick person. So, we have started our junior fire.
Speaking of that, the sick person, what was the sickness?
They've been bellyache and headache for a week, and they decided on Sunday morning they needed a doctor, and the fastest way to see a doctor, instead of sitting in the emergency room for hours, go by ambulance, get to see first. That's what they think. So,
Okay.
we just have to sit with them, talk to them till the EMS arrives. Nothing doing, no procedures.
Okay.
We have started our firefighter 1 training back up for our new members and juniors. We are one Thursday a month and 2 Saturdays a month. We're doing training for them and anybody else that wants to come join our training. You have any questions?
Sure. Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. All right. Item 18 will be a closed session. The board will convene in closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551071, 551072, and 551074. No action shall be taken while the board is in closed session. Any final action, final decision, or final vote shall be taken after the board reconvenes in open session. And
8:30.
we'll close the meeting at 8:30. take any necessary action on personnel employment for ESD number 2.
Okay, make a motion that the board would approve migrating or changing a part-time IT position to a full-time IT position, as we have that single person that's out deployed right now and we need to backfill that role.
Second. Have a motion by Commissioner Domney that we move a part-time position to a full-time position due to our, one of our IT people being on deployment. Have a second by Commissioner McKeithen. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. As far as me, I don't have any remarks outside of what I told you a while ago about the stipend. As soon as we hear back from DOL and our attorney says it's good or not, we'll let you know. And that's about all I've got. You got anything, Brent? Matt?
I'm good.
Mr. Biggs? Charles? Okay. We are adjourned at 9:30.